When you think of Terry Crews, you see the muscles, the power, the big, beautiful smile. He's the action hero, the funny dad, the man who seems unbreakable. But behind that strength was a man who felt incredibly small, a shield hiding a scared, hurting boy. For years the world saw one Terry Crews, but another lived in the shadows, filled with fear and self-doubt. He was desperate for love, terrified of being seen as weak. The strength you saw was a performance, a mask for private pain. Terry's story reminds us, the brightest smiles can hide the deepest sorrows, the strongest bodies, the most fragile hearts. He learned that true power isn't about building walls, it's about tearing them down. This is a story about the courage to be vulnerable, to confront your darkness and find the light. Terry's journey from hiding weakness to embracing it is a comeback story for the ages. Our deepest wounds can become our greatest wisdom. Vulnerability can unlock a power more lasting than any muscle. It's the power to heal, to connect, and to truly be yourself. To understand Terry Crews, you have to go back to Flint, Michigan. Inside his home, young Terry lived in fear, witnessing violence and feeling powerless to protect his mother. That helplessness planted a seed of shame and fear. He believed if he were just bigger, stronger, he could have stopped the pain. He equated smallness with weakness and vowed, "I will never be weak again." This need to be strong wasn't about heroics, it was survival. He built emotional walls, hid his tears, and decided he had to become someone tough. The desire for strength became an obsession, a desperate need to patch up the broken pieces inside. He thought muscle could erase emotional pain, but that kind of strength is an illusion, a cage, not a fortress. Many of us think we need to be unbreakable, but real strength isn't about hiding pain. Terry's journey shows that the walls we build to protect ourselves can also trap us. The lesson true strength is not about being hard but about being real. The seeds of false strength grow from fear, but they can be uprooted, and that's where Terry's real story begins. As Terry grew, the gym became his sanctuary. Every rep, every drop of sweat was building his armor, putting distance between himself and that scared little boy. His identity became his physique. People saw the muscles, the power, and gave him respect and validation. External approval felt like love, reinforcing the lie that his worth was in his strength. But the armor was heavy. He couldn't take it off. He had to be the tough guy, never showing weakness, never being honest about his feelings. The fortress he built kept pain out, but also kept real connection from getting in. His emotional world remained stunted, even as his body grew. The gym gave him a sense of power, but it was counterfeit, dependent on appearance, not healing. He was winning awards, but losing the battle for his own soul. The perfect-looking house he built was on a crumbling foundation. Eventually, all houses built on weak foundations fall. Terry's armor protected him from the world, but it also isolated him. The cost of that armor was authenticity, connection, and peace. True healing would require taking it off, and that would take more courage than any weight he'd ever lifted. The next chapter would test him in ways the gym never could. Terry's strength opened doors, a football scholarship, the NFL, then Hollywood. He was living the dream: fame, wealth, a loving family. By every measure he had won. But the internal struggle never left. The success, the money, the fame, none of it silenced the scared little boy inside. He was still performing, still playing the part of the strong man. At home, the need for control became toxic, creating a disconnect between his public persona and private life. The pressure to maintain the illusion was immense. He was the fun TV dad, but at home anger and addiction were tearing his family apart. He was living a double life. The man the world loved was not the man his family knew. The lie grew bigger, the armor cracked, and he felt more lost than ever. Success on the outside couldn't fix the pain inside. The cost of living a lie was becoming unbearable. Something had to give, and it did. Every lie eventually meets its reckoning. For Terry it came when his wife Rebecca confronted him about his addiction and the lies. She was leaving. The world he built shattered. The illusion of control was gone. He was brought to his knees. The armor he wore suffocated his marriage. His strength had made him weak. There was nowhere to run, no one else to blame. This was rock bottom. The fear of losing his family was greater than any pain he'd ever known. Stripped of pride and ego, he was truly powerless for the first time. But in that brokenness, a crack of light appeared. He had a choice: keep destroying, or do the one thing he'd always avoided, admit weakness and ask for help. This breaking point wasn't the end, but the beginning of real healing. It was the start of becoming the man he was meant to be. Sometimes you have to lose everything to find yourself. Terry's real journey began the moment his walls fell. True strength was finally within reach, but it would require a new kind of courage. Deciding to change was one thing, doing the work was another. The hardest step was admitting, "I need help." That act of humility was the first real repetition in building emotional strength. Terry checked into rehab, where muscles and fame meant nothing. He sat in circles, talked about feelings, and faced his shame and fear. Therapy became his new gym, building self-awareness instead of biceps. He unpacked childhood trauma, connecting the dots between the scared boy and the angry man. Addiction wasn't the real problem, it was a symptom of deeper pain. The therapist's office became a safe space to finally take off the armor. Opening up was slow, painful, but liberating. He confessed everything to his wife, faced the pain he'd caused, and learned to listen and empathize. Vulnerability, he discovered, was not weakness. It was the only path to real connection. Each honest conversation, each therapy session, built a new kind of strength. Inner strength, rooted in honesty and humility, was more powerful than any muscle. Healing was hard work, but it was real. For the first time, Terry was building a foundation that could last, and that changed everything. Healing required a new tribe, one built on honesty, accountability, and grace. Terry surrounded himself with mentors and friends who valued growth, not fame. This community became his lifeline, a place to be his whole self. Faith played a monumental role, reconnecting him to grace and self-worth. He learned to forgive himself, letting go of shame and control. Forgiving his father was a profound act of release, freeing him from anger's prison. The energy once spent on resentment was reinvested in healing and family. His marriage with Rebecca was reborn, built on radical honesty and mutual respect. Rebecca's strength and grace inspired him daily. Together they learned that true strength is showing up with vulnerability and a willingness to grow. Their renewed love became a beacon of hope. Even the most broken connections can be healed, and that healing starts with truth. Through this journey, Terry discovered his greatest truth. Weakness is not shameful, it's the source of real strength. Vulnerability became his superpower. By sharing his story, addiction, toxic masculinity, survival, he found freedom and purpose. He became a voice for healing, showing that true strength is the courage to show your broken pieces. Authenticity creates connection. It lets others know they're not alone. On stage, Terry gives others permission to be honest about their struggles. He shows men there's a new way to be strong, one that embraces emotion and empathy. Radical self-acceptance was the final step, loving the strong man, the artist, the funny guy, and the scared little boy. All these parts make up the whole Terry Crews. He no longer hides any part of himself. He's fully authentic, fully alive. The message, the love and acceptance we seek, must come from within. Your superpower is your willingness to be real. When you embrace your whole self, you don't just heal your life, you help heal the world. That is the greatest strength of all, and it's a strength we all can find.